we have a new live-action version of Disney's Snow White, and I have some thoughts. Well, I can definitely say this is one of the biggest pleasant surprises I've had at the movies this year. Yeah, I know. I was very skeptical and turned off by all the negative publicity and some of the odd decisions they made with this film, but I think at the end of the day, this is actually better than the original. I know! For one, the characters are a lot richer and better written. In the original, what is Snow White like? Just this very happy person who doesn't have a lot of depth to her. In this version, she actually has a character arc. Even the Queen, who in my Disney animated films ranking I said was the best part of the film, still doesn't have a lot of depth to her in that version. She's just vain and wants to kill Snow White because she's vain. In this version, she's actually a lot more evil, as she rules her kingdom with an iron fist, and we see the people suffering under her reign. The relationship between Snow White and the prince is better written. In the original, they have only like 2 scenes, and their screen time together is 2 minutes at best. In this version, they have a better fleshed out relationship, and despite some comments the actress made about this version not focusing on her love story, they actually do have a love story, and it feels a lot more meaningful than the original. Rachel Zegler has a better singing voice than the original version. The original sounds really screechy, like, but her voice is more melodious. And I get that that was like the style back then, but I'd rather listen to her singing it than the original. Another issue the film fixes is there are a lot of new songs in this film, and the songwriters are the same as La La Land, The Greatest Showman, and Spirited, and all the new songs are great. Because again, besides Hi Ho, what songs from the original does anybody really remember? It's because Hi Ho is really the only memorable song in the original, but there's a lot of really great new songs in this. The Evil Queen gets a villain song, and it's one of the better Disney villain songs we've gotten in a while. Between this, the villain song in Mufasa, and the villain song in Moana 2 are Disney villain songs making a comeback. Though an issue with Gal Gadot's villain song is her choreography looks like a car dealership inflatable. Another issue is her villain song is reprised when she turns into the witch, and even though one of the lyrics explicitly states that one of the ingredients will change her voice, her singing voice still sounds the same even after turning into the witch. In the original, Snow White is called Snow White because her skin is fair as snow, but in this version, she's called Snow White because she's born during a blizzard. That's like giving birth to a boy in the car on the way to the hospital and naming him Carson. And speaking of Carson, as good as Zegler is, I feel Sophia Carson would have been a better choice. She played the evil queen's daughter in Descendants, so it would be a bit of a fun irony. That, and she looks a bit similar to Gal Gadot. Zegler is still pretty good at this, though. Now, a huge controversy before the film came out was a set photo that allegedly showed the dwarves as humans, and that was taken out of context. These characters are actually a gang of bandits. And while the bandits as characters aren't that memorable, having Snow White's love interest be the leader of the bandits, this swashbuckling bad boy who has a bit of a Han and Leia dynamic with her, was a pretty great choice. But that also seems like they took the bandits idea from Mirror Mirror, where the dwarves were bandits. But I think this is a movie that can appeal to both genders, whereas the original is made exclusively for girls. I think boys can get a lot out of the swashbuckling action, and Snow White as a character is a positive role model, though it does feel like they took a lot of what they did with Jasmine in the live-action Aladdin, and they redid that here. But the way they wrote the strong female character without it feeling forced, I like how they did it. Of course, I gotta talk about the elephant in the room, the CGI dwarves. Oh my word, these things look awful. It's too reminiscent of the characters from Polar Express. Did they forget the scariest part of the movie was supposed to be the queen and not the dwarves? Is the look of the film looks very similar to the other live-action Disney fairy tale remakes. If I were to Photoshop the characters out of screenshots from this movie and ask you if they were from Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, Maleficent, or Aladdin, you probably wouldn't be able to tell me. At least with Cruella, for example, the film had a very different aesthetic and vibe that set it apart from the other remakes. But honestly, I think if this were just a Snow White movie not released by Disney, people would be a lot less harsh on it. A lot of people hold the original a special place in their heart, so to see it remade almost seems blasphemous, for lack of a better word. But come on, folks. Disney wasn't the first to adapt Snow White. There have been countless other versions since then.
Excuse me. The story you're about to tell is the copyrighted property of the Walt Disney Corporation. Can you sharpen these?
Excuse me, but Snow White is a fairy tale from hundreds of years ago. No one owns that.
This does enough that's new to justify it, without changing it so much that it's unrecognizable. And while I wouldn't say the movie is a must-see, if you have kids who want to go see it, go on $5 Tuesday. But if they don't care that much, then yeah, you can wait for Disney+. But I'm happy to say this isn't the disaster people were making it out to be. For me, it gets a B, an 8 out of 10, and 4 out of 5 stars.
Ho hi, it's time to say goodbye. If Disney sues, we'll claim fair use. Ho hi, ho hi, ho hi, ho hi.